Welcome to the Bite Size Brilliance Podcast. I'm your host, April Darley, and I want to talk to you about how your environment can shape your life. I recently heard this quote on another podcast, and it was either you shape your environment or your environment shapes you. And how true is that? And it can happen in the smallest of ways. If you're in the business world, or maybe even not, but you've probably heard this quote, you're the amalgam of your five closest friends, right? So look at that circle and how does that represent who you are or who you want to become? And some of you are going to say, I am not so sure that I like what I see. And if that's true, you want to start looking at other pieces of your environment. This could be your closet. Do you only buy what's on clearance, not what actually would fit you or the colors that would look good on you? Are you living in an environment where someone is super messy and you've just learned to deal with it, but yet it gives you anxiety or a panic attack every time you go home to that environment? So the environments do shape you. And if you want to change, one of the things you can do is change your environment. Now, I don't recommend that you change everything at once because that feels like a lot of pressure. It feels hard or even impossible, especially if there's someone else at play here. So, we always want to focus on the present and the pieces that we can control or that we can change. So, for example, your closet, the clothes you purchase, that's up to you, right? Even if you've got a partner that's super messy, you can control your piece. You can buy colors that complement you. You can have pieces that fit you well instead of baggy. All right, these are some things that you can do to change your environment to help you feel better. But if I were to even back that up a little bit further, is to think about what environment would you want? What environment would help you thrive? And so many people have not given that enough thought. And that's for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes it's because we were taught or shown at some point in our life that it didn't matter what you wanted, you weren't going to get it anyway. That you might have grown up in an environment that you wanted things and then felt guilty for wanting them because someone shamed you about that or teased you. And so you just sort of shut down that piece of you that dreamed, desired, and wanted. And then you grew up, and as a coping mechanism, you just deal with whatever. But is that going to make you happy? Is that what you would prefer? With all things being equal, is that what you would want to spend the rest of your life like? And if the answer is no, then some simple thing you can do is just think about if you had all the money, all the time, all the energy, all the support in the world, how would you shape it? How would you shape your environment? How would you shape your world? And think about the small things you could do right now to make that change. So, for example, the podcast I was listening to, she grew up in a very isolated southern town like I do, and she was a big fashionista. And so she would drive an hour away to the big city. A city is an hour away from me too. So it's like, I get you, girl. I know what that's like. But she would purposefully drive so that she could experience culture, that she could get her hair cut by someone who had been trained in a certain particular way, that she could go to a museum or a movie, even, right? And you can always control what books you read. Even if you feel, oh, I don't have money for books, go to the library and it might be a drive for you. It's a 30-minute drive for me to the closest library. But there are a lot of different programs that you could use if you want to. If you're motivated to change your environment, and it all begins and ends with you, and it really has not as much as we would like to think to do with other people. And sure, if you're partnered up with someone in a job or a business or relationship, there will always be things that are out of your control because you can only control you and what you do. But think about your environment. Is that the environment that the best version of you would choose for yourself? And if the answer is no, how can you make some little changes right now that would get it a little bit closer? So maybe it is changing the books that you read. Maybe it's turning off the evening news if it gives you anxiety. Maybe it is shopping somewhere other than the clearance section. Maybe it's looking on Pinterest to see what colors actually would suit you if you don't know. So there are so many little things that you could do. And it's interesting if you start doing these things, you may see some resistance coming up. So people might start teasing or pointing it out. Why are you trying to be different? Why are you trying to improve yourself? And if that happens, know that subconsciously they are afraid of losing your love or your time or your attention. So there's fight, flight, or freeze. And sometimes those people go and fight. But they don't realize that the very thing they're trying to avoid is the thing that will keep happening. They don't want to lose you, but if they keep making you feel bad, they just might. And it's a subconscious thing. So many people don't do that on purpose rather, but they don't want you to change sometimes because of what that means for them, not about what that means for you. So this is where having good boundaries is going to be really important. Having a strong, clear why you're doing this. And that why, ideally, would be something to do with you. You want to improve, you want to change, you want to grow, you want to expand, because those are the best whys. Those are the whys that have some of the best outcomes for success. And you can have a greater why. So, for example, if you're trying to lose weight and you want to eat healthy, you want to exercise, the first why will be yes, I'm doing that for me because you want to be healthy. But if you expand that out, the greater why would be I want to play with my grandchildren someday. I want to be able to run around with them. So it begins with you and expands from there. And think about that. So you're not selfish for doing it for you. There is a greater purpose in your why. And sometimes the people who try to keep you the same, they are afraid of change, but you can help them by showing what's possible for yourself. Some people need to see that so you can be an example. When you do change and grow and expand by proximity, they have the opportunity to do the same because you've given them visual evidence that life can be better than it is right now. And changes are a part of that. So don't be afraid to make those changes. Don't be afraid to change your environment and to think and dream and imagine, what do you really want? Why do you want it? And what are some baby steps that you can take right now to get a little bit closer to that ideal version of yourself? All right, my friends, I am wishing you so much love and success until next week. Bye bye.